Alright guys, TouchGilmore here, back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Thursday. This is pre-recorded on the Wednesday just because I'm busy this evening. If anything dramatic has happened over the last 24 hours or so, I will definitely cover it in tomorrow's video. But today wanted to talk about, right now, post Los Angeles, who is the best player in the entire game. I don't usually talk about this topic, but it's been going around a lot because there's a lot of contenders right now. And I think there's a lot of contenders depending on their role. There's a lot of main assault rifles who are absolutely dominating, but at the same time, there's a lot of players in kind of a flex SMG role which are also right up there. May not have quite the same stats in terms of KD, but in terms of impact and overall effectiveness in the game, they're definitely right up there. And there's a lot of teams that are very good right now, especially there's very much a lot of star players on those teams that are also very good. Even teams that aren't doing so well, there's star players who you could consider to be top 5, top 3, whatever players in the entire game. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down below, as it's a discussion which is going around quite widely over the last couple of days. Just before we get into it then, a couple of things to discuss. So firstly, credit CDL Intel. Just a couple of days ago now, they released this Warzone Battle Royale map kind of thing going on. And alongside that, they added an option which you can change your minimap from like a circular thing to a square. And this, as you can clearly see, adds on a pretty significant degree of extra vision, right? I think, 20, 22, something like that %. So, seems like a good deal. Don't really see any downside to this, so if you guys aren't aware of this option, probably a good thing to consider. And then we have this coming out from COD Gamepedia, so there's a lot of talk right now about this COVID-19 stuff, exactly what's going on here, who exactly knows, so look, it's rumoured that maybe the Seattle event is in jeopardy, and we'll just have to see how this works out. And Paris Eternal, their April the 12th homestand for Overwatch has been cancelled. I think the Paris Eternal, or not the Paris Eternal, but Paris Legion, it would be the event just afterwards. It is in like May sometime for the Call of Duty one, so hopefully that doesn't go a similar way. But let's get into this discussion then on who the best player is in the game. So after the Los Angeles event, of course, we've got FaZe Clan, who a lot of people would say, a couple of guys in that FaZe Clan team considered the best player in the game, or right up there. Of course, this event, they come like top 4. They don't actually even make the grand finals, losing to the Minnesota Rocker, which has probably put a couple of those guys in the FaZe team not exactly top of mind when you're thinking best in the game, as they were after they won their own Atlanta FaZe home series. So a lot of people were talking about who the MVP is, like Clayster, GodRx for sure is a name that we'll have to talk about. A lot of people saying Clay, like Shotzzy turns up, like Hoog, Clay. Of course, Dallas Empire won it, so that makes sense, but thought it was an interesting point to start things off on. And here we go then. So following the Atlanta FaZe home series, Lion Man put together these cards to say the top 10 rated player cards. Rated, unfortunately, isn't in here. This is what it was after Atlanta. Have things really changed now after the Los Angeles event? Who knows? But I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. So you got Priester up here, you got a Beezy up here. Like Alex is definitely a player to consider. I think on this Minnesota team, there's so many players which are super good. Like, I personally think, like, Assault plays very, very well, but in terms of his role as the main assault rifle, he's not as good as some of the other main assault rifles we've seen. Like, guys like Octane, for example. Arcetes has got to be up there, or Celium, for example. And Celium isn't really even a main assault rifle. He's more of a flex as well, which boosts him up in my estimations even higher. But yeah, Assault a great player, but I think overshadowed, to be honest, by Alex and GodRx on that team. Alex is an absolute animal. Like, I really enjoy watching him play this game. Very underrated for a couple of years now, and I think he's finally getting the props he deserves, to be honest, especially in the role he plays. Putting up the numbers he does is unprecedented. He's a crucial attribute and a crucial asset to that Minnesota team, without which they would be nowhere near as good in my opinion. But GodRx, another player you have to talk about, and we will go into look at some stats here in just a second, because his stats at this Atlanta FaZe event were pretty damn good on the whole. He gets like top 4 in terms of player ratings, top 3 of course all being on Atlanta FaZe, which is just absolutely filthy. That's a team we're going to have to talk about. But GodRx even played better than this at the most recent Los Angeles event. Then you've got Simp right up here, and to be honest, depends how I conclude this video, but in my opinion, Simp for me is still the best player in the game. The reasons being the role he plays. Like, being that fast-paced SMG, no one else can compete with him right now, and hasn't been able to for quite a while, ever since he hit the scene. Whenever you watch this guy play, it is on another level. His teammate Abizi may be the closest to him in terms of competing rating for how good he plays in that particular role. Most of the guys you'll see that we talk about today are assault rifles, or they're, flexes, but they're slower paced flexes. And okay, Selim isn't a slower paced flex by any means. Him versus Simp is a great discussion for who's the best player in the game, and there's other players to go into it. But doing what Simp does in that SMG, it really does remind me of Scump back in the Advanced Warfare days, when it was a BAL dominated meta. Now right now it's kind of an MP5 dominated meta, but in terms of who puts up the best statistics, it's the assault rifles who do it, because they can just sit there on a head glitch, kill the MP5s as they fly out from the corner. But at the same time, it's better for the team to have MP5s, because then you gain more ground on the map. That's why you don't see too many assault rifles pulled out most of the time. So even in that game, it was a BAL dominated meta. The ASM1 Scump was what he was using most of the time. In this game, even though it's an MP5 dominated meta, that's the harder gun to put up stats with. The fact that Alex can do it, the fact that Simp can do it to an even another level, really does remind me of Advanced Warfare, like early Black Ops 3 Scump, when, you just never seen any kind of stats like that from a player in that role, given that all the other best players in the game in terms of statistics were using an entirely different gun, and he was doing it with more engagements, with even a better KD, which just, mind-blowing. Advanced Warfare Scump was something else. Simp definitely has shades, and given how competitive the landscape is nowadays, like, Simp is going to go down in history as one of the very, very best players ever, I imagine. Thanks to I was going to say God X. Thanks to Lion Man for that. And then thanks to Cam, Allen, and Horizontal for these beauties. Top 10 overall KD at the Los Angeles event. So that was after the Atlanta FaZe event. This is the Los Angeles one. So God X up here at 1.3. Skies, Slasher finally getting back into the action. Octane, and it takes all the way to number 5 and number 6, really, and Alex to get a player which isn't, an assault rifle. You got Simp down here at 7, always up there. Dashy, Accuracy, and TJ Halley in terms of overall KD for the weekend. But it's not just overall KD, of course, you want to be considering. Average kills per hardpoint, I think, is a good one, because this takes into account to some degree engagements and KD in one. So you can't just be playing really slow and getting a high KD. Which is why, okay, GodRx down here at 28. There's a lot of players that are really, really high right now, like Skyzabir at 30, Accra at 30 as well, TJ not far behind as well. So despite the fact that TJ didn't necessarily have god tier stats on the weekend, even though he did have pretty damn good stats, 1.11, he was also getting great kills per hardpoint on the back of that. And Octane, down here a little bit lower. And there's definitely something to be said about player speed. I saw a post on Reddit today. It was pretty interesting about the Seattle team and how the Panda and Slack are actually really, really far behind in terms of engagements on the team, and Octane is actually like kind of leading the line almost in engagements, which isn't really what you would expect from your main assault rifle player. So let's go into some actual stats from teams here and just decipher who we think is the best player in the game right now. So this is the Atlanta FaZe squad, as I'm sure you guys are aware, and their stats over the entire season so far are just outrageous. Celium's up here at 700 kills, Simp is not far behind at all, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of engagements, right? Like Maniac might have a 1.1 KD, but he doesn't even have 500 kills so far this season. Selim is on 700, and the rest of the guys are way up there as well. Abizi has like a 1 KD, but at the same time, he's putting up incredible pressure on the map. But Simp is putting up pressure, but even to another level, and him and Selim right now are tied. The reason why I kind of favour Simp is that Selim more often has an assault rifle in hand than does Simp. It depends, of course, on the map pick that they're going for. You could definitely say that Selim's the best player in the game right now. I think it's really, really close between these two. And I think the other players on the team aren't even too far behind. Like, in terms of overall, in terms of their KDs for the entire season, this is just some absolutely ridiculous stuff. Let's go through some other teams then. So this is the Chicago Huntsmen, of course. I'm not really sure. It's difficult to make too much of a case for these guys. I think that Envoy is maybe the closest to playing really well. Formal's been kind of up and down, to be honest. And in that main assault rifle role, him and Arstes have been kind of going back and forth a little bit. Doesn't work out quite so well for them compared to some other assault rifles we'll look at. And then Dallas, of course, they've had some decent results against most teams, but when they play against Atlanta or Chicago, they seem to pretty much get smoked. So there's no one on this team right now I'm putting right up there. But then we go on to some other squads. So this, of course, is the Florida team. And you've got Skies rocking a 1.20 right now in the main assault rifle role. 800 kills almost so far this season. He's played some very, very good maps, and I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen from him so far. The rest of his team is negative, though, so it has to be said that, okay, I think he only changed roles kind of recently, which probably means that these statistics are somewhat skewed. They may even be better than this with the assault rifle in hand, but compared to some of the other stats we've seen for some main assault rifles, Skies doesn't quite cut it, but he's definitely probably right up there, on the cusp of being a top 8 player or something like that. Then we have a look at the OpTic team real quick. So Dashy sitting at a 1.1 KD is probably the the best on this squad right now. Slasher did definitely turn up at the most recent event, but, not the prettiest statistics overall. And then we get into the London Royal Ravens. So, rumored to be making a change here. Nasty potentially coming in for Rated. And Wuskin is just on another level right now. Like, he has the most skills on the team, just in front of Dylan, because Dylan has just ridiculous engagements, as he always has done. But Wuskin on a 1.41 KD, which is the highest KD in the league right now. Like, this is absolutely phenomenal. And yes, the rest of his team is pretty much negative, apart from his brother Scraps. But you watch this guy play, not only does he do it in terms of statistics, but he's getting important kills. Like, it's not like he's just getting meaningless kills on the map and his team is losing. He's putting up a 1.41, and he's winning the games where he's going super close to losing. And when they lose, most of the time it's because, maybe their SMGs on the team had a poor map and let them down. So, not always the case for sure. Definitely a team game. But Wuskin has been playing out of his skin. There's no denying that. And he's right on the cusp for me for being one of the best players. The only reason why, in my opinion, Simp is still slightly above is just because of roles. Because there's a lot of guys right now that, not a lot of guys at all, but there's maybe 2, 3, 4 guys who are doing kind of what Wuskin is doing with the assault rifle in hand. I don't think there's anyone in the game right now who does what Simp does, with his gun in hand. So, yeah, Wuskin at a 1.41, crazy. GodRx is definitely to mention here. I think that honestly, like, Alex deserves a really high mention, given his statistics right here and, the amount of games that these guys have played. He is not too far behind Simp in my mind as, like, who's one of the best SMGs in the game right now. Alex has to be up there for me. GodRx is a flex. At the same time, GodRx, I don't want to say he baits or he kill hauls or something like that. He doesn't to some degree, but at the same time, he does definitely play slower than some of the guys in his team. He's very, very talented, especially in Search and Destroy. He hits some phenomenal snipes, but GodRx is definitely a top tier player, just slightly behind some of the other players for me, but he's still fantastic. I'd still put him maybe a top 5, top 6 player in the game or something like right now, but we have talked about him a lot over the last couple of days, so I didn't necessarily want to dwell on it. Got Dens up here as well, the 1.24, kind of a similar boat to me to Skies, to be honest. This is, of course, on the Paris team. The rest of the team not doing so good. He's dropping big numbers, kind of the same for the Wuskin situation. And we have exactly the same situation on this Seattle Surge team, with Octane dropping almost a 1.3. So let's look at this from an overall perspective. In terms of KDs, and I'm not saying KD means everything by any means, and Apathy in terms of SMGs, he's doing pretty damn well as well, but let's look at assault rifles. You got Octane's right up there with a 1.3, Dens with a 1.24, GodRx doesn't always use an assault rifle, which is what kind of makes him even more impressive. And you got Wuskin up there, then you've kind of got Skies up there, and apart from that, in terms of ARs, that's pretty much where it finishes, apart from, I guess you could put Selim in that category, but not entirely. So I'd say out of those assault rifles, Wuskin is probably playing the best right now, but then you have to consider players who are playing other roles, and more quicker roles, which makes it more difficult to be very, very effective. GodRx is definitely leading the lines in terms of that category. Him versus Selim is a very interesting question, but for me, there's only a couple of guys in the entire league that are doing what Simp does. Simp, of course, being one of them. Alex is not far behind, and there's some other SMGs that can compete on their day, but for me right now, it's still Simp. Whenever I watch this guy play, I think he's an unbelievable asset to whatever team he's on. Whenever he likes, he could just completely take over the game and drop a ridiculous, like, 5, 6, 7 piece, go on a 10 kill streak and win your team the game. For me, he's still going to get it. I think there's a very competitive right now at the top. There's probably 8 players or so, which you could consider very, very strong. And it's not surprising that those teams on the whole are doing very, very well. But it's pretty interesting to see that, Dallas have statistics like this on the whole, but they just won an event. So intrigued to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Who is the best player in the game? Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.